At Backstory, we're looking at the context behind news, and I thought the war with Iran would be a good use case to show how a news organization can use the platform to conduct research on a topic and then create some visuals for use on air. So I have loaded up this application. This is Backstory. And the first thing we can do is just research a topic. So there's three ways that a content creator can research. That's by place, by person, or by topic. The places search is powered by Google. So if you search Strait of Hormuz, you're going to be directed to how to find it on the map. But what I want to do is research it. So here, I'm going to research this as a news topic. And this is where this is integrated with Wikipedia so that at least that top level description of what it is can be found. So if I do this, I know the Strait of Hormuz is a strait in the Persian Gulf. The Gulf of Oman provides the only sea passage from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. And then I can generate a brief from this information that is controlled by me as an administrator. And this output, I've run it before, so it's cached in the database, which is why it was so fast. But this is what I want to key on because each of these things is controllable through a system prompt that is admin administered. So if I go to the admin menu and I go into the prompts, I can locate out the brief. These are the repurposing. Let me just search for brief. So if I'm researching a person, I can give instructions and I can set the model and the temperature of what I'm looking for in the back end. So my system instructions are based on a framework that I follow in prompt engineering. You can do your own research there. But if I'm researching a person, I can say you're an expert biography writer. You are always 100% accurate. If I'm researching a topic, you're a subject matter expert on a specific thing. So you can get very, very specific. And I have various AI things built into this platform, each with their own prompt. So that if I fork this application and give it to somebody, they can go into these containers and massage this language themselves according to their criteria. So if we were to go back then, and I'm actually looking at Oklahoma City, but let's bring it up on a map. I'm going to add it as a location in my database, and then I am going to view it on a map. And this is a direct integration, a link over to Google so that it can be found using their tools. But if we wanted to locate it on our map, it brings it up here in this view as well. And then we can collapse the map and it pinpoints a location. If I were to describe this location editorially, meaning maybe I just don't want a dot on the map, I want to create a marker. I can put a marker on the map so that this is findable. And if I were to collapse down, I think I did this before, at the bottom, yep, here. So if I'm ever anywhere on my map, I can navigate over. And if we're filming our canvas on air, then this is what's captured. And these menus are not. They are visuals for me. But from here, I can go in and I can capture this location as a screenshot. We can capture it as a JPEG, as a ping, various formats. But this is where I can go in and set different base map styles if I wanted to look at this in satellite view. Or if I wanted to, I can bring on top layers based on open data that would be available out there on the internet. And I haven't done it for this use case, but we could bring in any sort of JSON file from an open data perspective. And if we wanted to use ArcGIS layers from that service, we could do that because it's built in as well. So if I'm creating a marker here, and I'm saying Strait of Hormuz, I can give it a base map color. I like orange because it tends to stand out. And then I can set an icon. And I'm just going to use, let's say, an image so that a user knows on the map that when they click this, they can see an image. So from this point, I can use the information that I generated in this marker creation. So I can go ahead and create the marker. Here it is on the map. And then because I saved my information to the database, I can go down and I can find the information. And I'll just copy it in for now. It's always going to be edited by someone who knows what they're doing. But now if I go over to my point in the Strait of Hormuz here, I can click on my marker and I can lay in my text from my database. And we can load it in. I think the next step is going to be to load it in, but you get the idea. Okay, so this is a WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get, meaning it works like a Word doc. So if I want to bullet it, I can. I often tighten this greatly because what it looks like when you're opening it now on the map is a location that if we were to blow this up or to shrink down this interface, we could fly this out and we could have our map location as well as the information to present to the user or to narrate. But this looks kind of lame. There's no image or video. So let's talk about that piece. So let's say I wanted to dress this marker point up with an image. If I go back over to Google, for example, we can often pull public resources into our visual because they're published on the cloud. And then I can use this as an icon or as a marker asset so that when this is shown on the map, we can see an icon and then click on it. And then we can blow this up to a better visual if needed. If we're capturing this information in video and I'm narrating it, we've saved a lot of post-production because we're bringing everything into this view. But we're also giving the content creator an opportunity to bring in other types of content. So let's say we wanted to add in another video from YouTube to explain about the Strait of Hormuz. If I went back to my research engine, and I went to my video panel here, I could go Strait of Hormuz. I could search by the most comments I can see this CNN video has a lot, 10,000, 4,000. If I wanted to use any of these videos on air, I could click on them and get
The
the
president is
URL.
very dismayed with American allies. He's putting a lot of pressure.
And now, if I went back to that video marker, I could add this video in because I have the URL. But before I do that, before I decide whether I want this, what if I want to see what people are saying about this video in the comment string? This is the part that I want to call out from a research perspective. So much of what journalists used to do in the old days was comb YouTube for leads, for insights, and we can do this automatically with AI. So the first thing we're going to do in our flow is to load up all the comments. We're going to bring in a sampling as sampled by relevance. So YouTube kind of self-censors this, meaning it tries to filter out what it deems repetitive or bot traffic, but let's face it, it's Wild West. But from this extraction, we're going to run sentiment analysis. And this is going to go and it's going to seek all the comments and it's going to aggregate them and it's going to come back with a report about what all the comments say. And you might have seen this feature on Amazon because they do it with product reviews. This is the same. It's with a YouTube. So here we can go, okay, all the users are saying this. Negative, people are frustrated, they're intensely frustrated. We can segment the audience by who we think they are based on what they say and what language they're speaking in according to the platform. So we can say they're primarily US and European, which makes sense from the platform perspective. We can extract intelligence from this. What consensus points, what controversies, are there any hidden gems of information in here? We can perform thematic analysis, which is primary themes, praise drivers, and then we can perform lead extraction, which would be people mentioned, any organizations, any locations, and from investigative journalism content perspective, even as a business analysis perspective, this is just a gold mine. And I'm a consultant. I do service work on the side to make money. And, often what people want are insights. They don't want data. They have data out the wazoo, as my former boss would say. They want to know what the data means and why it's relevant. And this is just from a journalism perspective, a new area of opportunity. So if we can bring in and analyze the sentiment, then I can create a report for myself that brings all of that together in a way that means something to me. So I go into my system prompt, I say, well, now I want an AI Insights report. Bam. It would be more impressive if something happened when I said that. We're still going. This is where I hope I paid my bill. I did. Okay. So here, bam. Executive summary. This is the bottom line. Here's the confidence level. Here's urgency indicators. Here's the findings. Here's the signals. Here's the risk controversy map. Here's the AI audience intelligence area roadmap. And then any quotable intelligence areas. This is exportable in PDF or CSV form. So if I'm doing research on a number of things, I might be providing 10 or 12 of these reports to different people or aggregating all of these reports together to gain insights, which is probably where we're going to go next. But as you can see here, I've decided that this is a good video. I'm going to include it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this URL
The president is very
to
dismayed with
include in my
American.
marker, because remember, that was my goal. but I've now downloaded this report so I can use it later. So let's go back to my map, and I'm going to go back to my marker point. Probably should save that in so I don't have to show you, but hey, isn't that a cool animation? Okay, so now I'm going to go into my marker, and I'm going to make this media my marker highlight when you click on the marker. And if I update it now, the image is still my custom marker, my custom icon. It's not the camera anymore because I've replaced it with a custom image. But when I click on it, now I have the CNN video. And if you were to play it,
The president is very dismayed with American allies. He's putting a lot of pressure on them. He wants help from them when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran essentially has at a standstill to oil traffic going through there, oil traffic that doesn't really pertain to the U.S.
This
but it
is
does,
where
because
the
that's how
storytelling comes in. Because remember, Backstory is a storyteller
affecting the
platform
US,
for people who
but
want to
he's
tell
frustrated
stories.
with American
The story
allies.
I'm telling today is about the Strait of Hormuz. It's a hard news story. But if I were talking about any brand or retail story, the marker and the process and the workflow would be the same. We can define it atomically and then lay in assets that help us do it. Now, we can increase the size of the player so that if I'm shooting this on air, that becomes the visual, and then I am the anchor illustrating on the map what we're trying to convey. And in doing that, I can shrink back the panels, and then we can talk about the significance of the strait. Um, and then if I wanted to change the base background into something different, let's say I wanted to go in and show it in image and topography, then we can do that within the application, and we don't have to do it in the post-production flow, which is the benefit of bringing everything together into a unified data and spatial platform to begin with. So if we can add video here, the other things we can add are just things that we think might be needed around this location. So we could set different assets to be brought in. If we had audio we wanted to play as the marker overlay, I could do that. Video, images. I can also add in links to different reference links if there's media articles. If I wanted facts about this to be laid, I could say percentage of oil tanker traffic, and I could lay in 20%. All of these are attributes of the marker itself. So by following just an atomic diagram philosophy, we can define these things at the marker level and then provide source backs if there are attributions that we need to give to external or third parties. So that is just part of what you can do with the research part of Backstory, and thanks for listening.